What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And today I'm handling something that is basically blowing up on all over social media, and that's the Fox bodies at Barrett Jackson. So everybody is kind of conflicted. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of people that simply do not understand what happened with all the Fox bodies at Barrett Jackson. So what I'm going to do today is I've brought two complete experts in the Fox body sphere, and we're going to get their take, because there is a lot of people that simply don't understand the market. They don't understand the cars. They don't understand the auction setting. There's just a lot of things that they don't understand. There's a lot of misinformation. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to dispel all of that with two experts. So the first expert I've got for you today is my good friend Mark Lemaskin from Performance Autosport, performanceautosport.com. Well over 20 years, he's been buying, selling, building, even racing Fox bodies, and not just Fox body Mustangs, but all generation, Cobra R's, Salines. There's very few people on this planet that know more about these cars than Mark. Mark is an expert. Check him out. But anyway, we were talking last night and today about what was going on, and so we kind of got together. He gave me his take, so let's just roll the tape. Check it out.
Hey everybody, it's Mark Lemaskin with Performance Autosport, coming to you with a bunch of cars behind me in our shop. What we do is we buy and sell Mustangs, especially Fox body cars. I've been in the Fox body business for about 20 years. Been an enthusiast for many years, since I was 16, owned tons and tons of Fox body cars, and have a tremendous passion for the cars. I'm 50 years old, and believe it or not, this is what I do for a living. Well, a lot of people called me this weekend. I mean, a lot of people. My phone rang off the hook. It was crazy. People were saying, Mark, what in the world happened this weekend? Is this good? Is this bad? Should I buy? Should I sell? What should I do? And the reality of it is, it's great. It was great news that the cars sold for big money at Barrett. Now, they're still without controversy, because some of the cars, in my opinion, brought way more money than they were actually worth. And I had quite a few people say to me, well, Mark, why in the world would somebody pay $10,000 and $15,000 more for the same car that wouldn't sell on eBay for a year, 6 months? Well, it's because of the auction. Okay, the auctions always get people excited. They always make people spend more money. That's the whole idea of the auction. And is it good or bad? Well, it's great, because it brings the Fox body Mustangs to a different segment of the market. Those of us that have loved the cars for years and appreciated them are one thing, but you have to broaden the market in order to be able to make the car a true collector and get it in the collector car status. Well, I think that happened last weekend. And what's exciting about that is that the cars did ring the bell. Most cars fell within what I consider to be fair market value, maybe on the high side of the fair market value, and a couple of cars sold for way more. So what does that say? Well, what that said to me was, I don't necessarily know whether the buyers were as informed about the cars and their value as you and I are. And you know, that can play into both ends of the spectrum, because it's great that the seller was able to get as much money as they did for the cars, but in the same sense, that doesn't mean that every 93 LX feature car is now a $50,000 car. It doesn't work that way. There needs to be a history of cars selling and bringing a certain amount of money to establish a trend to say, okay, that's what these cars are worth. And the other kind of issue that was online on Facebook, especially some of the different pages that I monitor and I'm part of, was there were a lot of people that were really, really upset that some of the cars had been modified, put back to stock, some cars had been painted, and that was never disclosed. Well, the reality of it is, it's not up to the auction or the seller to tell them, meaning you and I, what was done to the cars. You still have to do your due diligence and make sure that you know what you're buying. The most important thing is to do your research before you go to the auction. Do a little bit of searching in history, especially all over the internet. Nothing goes away once it hits the internet, and see whether or not there's a story or history behind the cars that you're looking at. And make sure you set a price in mind of what you're willing to pay for the car, and you don't overpay for the car. So it's not the seller's fault that things weren't disclosed properly. I don't necessarily agree with the fact of representing a car as original when there might not be something that's original on it, but it wasn't me selling the cars. So just remember, do your due diligence, and remember, the Foxes, they've arrived. You better buy one now.
Okay, so there you go. There is a true expert's opinion on the situation, and No, we're not done. The second expert I've got for you today is Evan Smith. And if you don't know who Evan Smith is, I'm kind of surprised you're even watching this. But anyway, Evan Smith is the very long time former editor of Muscle Mustangs and Fast Fords magazine. I basically read him when I was a kid, kind of getting into cars. Before I could drive, I was reading Evan Smith stuff, Super Stock, Champion, all kinds of stuff. Evan is a true expert. Just Google Evan Smith, Muscle Mustangs, and Fast Fords if you don't know him or you don't believe me. But anyway, had a conversation over FaceTime with Evan, and he kind of gives me his take here. So let's roll that tape. So I told you I had another expert. Here he is. Needs no introduction. Evan Smith of Revin Media. Does a ton of work with Ford Racing and obviously with Muscle Mustangs and Fast Fords previously for a lot of years. If you don't know who Evan Smith is, I don't know what to tell you, but I was reading him in 1990, back when I could first read magazines, car magazines and stuff. But anyway, Evan, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and welcome aboard.
My pleasure.
So Evan and I both kind of stumbled onto the same conversation on Facebook this morning about people griping and moaning and complaining about what happened to Barrett Jackson over the weekend. And so what I wanted to do is get Evan on here to kind of dispel a lot of the myths and dispel a lot of the hype and just give a real world explanation of what was going on. So Evan, what's your take on all this Barrett Jackson stuff?
Well, the post, and I think the hype surrounds the fact that people are paying exorbitant money, really, really high dollars for FOXBODY Mustangs, which, have been the classically affordable, low buck, entry level hot rod, and they're kind of looked at that way in the market. They're looked at that way by enthusiasts. So to see somebody paying, $40,000 or $50,000 for a FOXBODY Mustang, it could send people into a whirlwind as far as whether, oh my God, the hobby's ruined and people are going to think that their Mustang's worth more than it is. And people actually going so far as to blame Barrett Jackson or, the guy who sold the 18 cars, Collins, for ruining the hobby. And to me, I absolutely 100% disagree. The very first thing you have to remember is these are collector cars that sold there. They're very low mileage. They've been preserved. They basically almost never been driven. So it's an investment in time and money to be able to hold a car like that. This is not your run-of-the-mill 90,000-mile Mustang that's really nice and clean. These are cars with 300 miles, 8,000 miles. Over 25 years, that's a car that's never been driven. You've got to store the car that long. You've got to keep it in nice shape. Somebody had to make the initial investment. So to pay that kind of money to buy basically a timepiece at this point, it's no different than any other muscle car. And Barrett Jackson caught heat for the same thing, years ago with the muscle car craze, where, $180,000 for a 69 Mustang. Well, that $180,000 69 Mustang might have a $120,000 restoration done to it.
Right.
So the guy made a few bucks and saved somebody the time of having to find a car, have the car in body shop prison, or locate parts. You paid 40 or 50 grand more than the restoration cost, but you got a car immediately. So the same thing is happening now. The guys who are in their 40s and 50s, these are the cars they lusted after, the FOXBODY Mustangs. Maybe they had one new. They modded it, then they had a family, had to get rid of it. Now they have a better job, some money in the bank, and they can afford to go buy a car like that.
Exactly.
There was 18 of them. There's not 1,800. It's not like the whole hobby's like that. I think it's actually pretty cool because somebody took the time to, make a FOXBODY Mustang essentially a time capsule.
Right. The other comments that I see a million of them, and this comment was made in this same thread was, well, they made a million of them. They're everywhere. That the FOXBODY's never going to be worth anything. And you made a great point, and that point was
pretty much that any commodity, whether it's jewelry, whether it's watches, boils down to supply and demand. So, I saw that comment that was made on Facebook, and I did about 10 minutes of internet research. I went over to my trusty red book and saw that I actually wrote the number down somewhere. there was roughly under 3 million Fox bodies. It was like 2.1 or 2.2 million Fox bodies total. And if you just look at Tri-5 Chevys, 55, 56, 57 Chevys, in 3 years of production, there was like 3.2 million of those built by Chevrolet in 3 years, okay? Because the comment was, there's a million other muscle cars. There's so many more Mustangs than any other muscle car. And actually, that's not true. And that's not even counting early Mustangs, early Fairlanes, Chevelles, Novas, Camaros, Mopars, Buicks, all the other muscle cars. There was way less Fox body Mustangs, actually, than all those other cars. So they're not rare, but they are becoming harder to find. I mean, let's face it, they haven't built, a Fox body Mustang in quite a while, 25 or 30 years, depending on what year you're after. What do you call it? A 79 would be what? Would be 29-year-old car.
Yeah.
They haven't built that car in 29 years. The odds of finding a 79 Mustang in any condition now, it's a 30-year-old car. They've been crushed. They've been rusted away. They've had accidents. They've just blown up, and, the person gave up on the car. It just was too expensive to keep it on the road, just like any other car.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I revert back to supply and demand. Why is it harder to find a Fox body Mustang? Not because of Barrett Jackson, because they're old and there's less of them.
Right. Yeah, and not only that, but like you go to any drag strip anywhere in the country, you're gonna see a ton of them. So they were cut up and made into race cars, which is cool. I love race cars, but so the notion that they're just gonna be on every street corner like they were, I don't know, around 2000, 2001. For people to say that, in my opinion, is just a totally uneducated statement.
And that's essentially what's happened in the Fox body market is the unmolested, unmodified, still in good shape cars are becoming harder and harder to find just because of time and supply and demand. So naturally they're going to go up in value because if you want one, the person that maybe had a stock 4-cylinder in great shape, and every once in a blue moon somebody would go, "Hey, you interested in selling that car?"
Yeah.
Now that person's getting his door knocked down because people see the potential in it, and it has more value.
Right. Exactly. So I mean, that's basically the long and the short of it. Is there aren't many out there. There's still a ton of people looking for them, and especially because Fox body Mustangs weren't super expensive or extremely desirable back then. Only the cream of the crop, like the Celines, the Cobras, stuff like that, those did get put up and saved.
Sure.
But your typical LX hatch or your typical GT Vert, most of the time those cars didn't get put up, and I think that's another thing just driving values up. But well, Evan, I'm not going to keep you any longer. I certainly appreciate you coming on, and I wanted to give people true expert opinions and true expert takes on what's going on, and I don't think anybody would disagree with me in saying that you are an expert, and so I definitely appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks, man. I don't know if I'm an expert. I love Mustangs, and I still have my Fox body that I bought in '87. It's getting rebuilt. My buddy Eric up in New York has it. Appreciate you having me on, and look forward to talking to you guys soon.
Hell yeah. Thanks, Evan.
You got it.
So there you have it, guys. 2 experts. Now, you're asking me, Caleb, do you consider yourself an expert? Not really. Not really. These guys have done it so much longer than I have. I'm just somebody that loves these cars, knows quite a bit about them, and decided to build a media company around them. So I don't necessarily consider myself an expert, so I'm not going to put myself up there as an expert. But Mark and Evan are experts, in my opinion, and I don't really think that anybody can dispel that. But that's what's going on. I mean, again, there is a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of stuff out there that people just, they don't understand about how all of this works, car values, how things appreciate, how auction settings work, all this other stuff. So my goal today was to bring you these experts and let you get their take firsthand. And I'm really glad I did. Got a lot of great information from these guys, and I really appreciate them coming together with me to put this together. So I hope that everybody enjoyed this upload. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you share it around. I'd really love to get more educated information out into the social media sphere for everybody to see. But again, I appreciate Mark and Evan taking the time to come on the show and give us their expert opinion. And in the meantime, make sure you smash that subscribe button, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow for more Coyote Swap updates. Later.